You're tuned in to the DMV Hoops Podcast.
This is John the Scripter, head girls basketball coach at St. John's College High School, and this is the DMV Hoops Podcast.
Welcome to the DMV Hoops Podcast, the DMV's home for high school basketball. Hosted by Kurt Cross and featuring Chelsie Cross. We bring you the latest news, interviews, rankings, recruiting buzz, and standout performances from the public and private school basketball scene across Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Stream us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Buzzsprout, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are heard. Now, let's get into it. Here's your host, Kurt Cross.
Welcome to the DMV Hoops Podcast. As always, I'm Kurt Cross. She is
Chelsie Cross.
We're here live from the Morgan and Kathy Wooten Gymnasium. We're coming to the end of Summer League. Playoffs are going to begin soon, and that's enough of an intro. We have an interview, ladies and gentlemen. Sir, I've waited for you to be on this podcast forever, and all I have to say is the most tenured and legendary coach in the area, Mr. Dan Harwood. Coach Harwood, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks. Great to be here.
No. We're thankful for you being here, sir. It's not your honor, it's our honor. You don't script something like this because you can talk basketball all day with this gentleman. We can talk about the years where you had Koki. We can talk about the hundreds of athletes you've coached. We can talk about all your former athletes that have come back to your camps. Coach Harwood, how does it feel to walk in the shoes of the guy who's coached more games than anyone in the area?
That's right here in Morgan's gym?
That's in Morgan's gym right now. That would be you.
Yeah, well, Morgan was one of my mentors. I worked his camp, overnight camp, back when I was JV coach at Paint Branch.
Okay.
And good friends with Pete Strickland and Mike Bray and Neil Murphy. They were all my contemporaries, my friends, and they all coached here for many years. So even though I'm not a DeMatha guy, I'm a public school guy. I pretty in touch with the DeMatha and the Catholic League.
You feel home here?
I certainly do.
All right. Now, before I forget, because I will forget to ask this, last week you mentioned a name, Walter Hardy. What does that name mean to you?
Well, when I was JV coach at Paint Branch, a long time ago, back in the early, mid-'80s, Walter was on the varsity. Right. And we went to the state championship that year. I was the JV coach working for Hank Collada, was the head coach at Paint Branch, and he was actually Morgan Wooten's assistant here for 5 years, back when they had Adrian Dantley and Kenny Carr and those guys. So he was kind of doing things the DeMatha way. And Hank was a great coach, and Walter was a key part of our team. And then as later on in life, Walter became a teacher like his father, became a coach, and we became good friends. And, it was a tragedy that we lost Walter about 8 or 9 years ago, but his son will be working at my camp on Monday, Chase Hardy.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
I didn't know it was 8 or 9 years. I know I had told someone last week, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago. Walter and I did business together. We talked basketball. We hung out at some Redskins games together. So Walter was that guy.
Everybody loved Walter.
I'll tell you a story you don't know about Walter. Tell the story. She was playing AAU basketball. There was a game at Kennedy High School. And what did Walter do for you?
He gave me grilled cheese sandwiches.
He made her grilled cheese sandwiches because the snack bar wasn't open.
Yeah. That sounds like Walter.
Coach, there's so much history to talk about in Montgomery County. You remember names like Dale Lambert. You remember Coach Lindsay on the girls' side at Blair High School. You know, why can't I say her name? Oh, Heather Podasic over at Paint Branch.
Sure.
All the names. You've seen all the names. Has Montgomery County ever been in better hands than it is right now?
You know, I think it's always been pretty solid. It was when I was, back when I was playing, in the 70s, I went to Perry High School, which is now closed.
Over in Rockville.
I thought the county was really good. There wasn't as many private schools, and, it was solid. And with the rising of so many private schools, and back in the day, it was kind of DeMatha, maybe Mackin and Carroll. occasionally St. John's, and now everybody's good in the Catholic League. And we went down a little bit, but I really think in the last 10 or 15 years, Montgomery County's come up. And we're not the Catholic League, but we're really solid basketball with a lot of very good coaches. And it's certainly, if you're not going to start for DeMatha or Gonzaga or PBI, I think you can still play good basketball in Montgomery County.
Well, when you talk about the boys' side now, you're talking Magruder. Richard Montgomery had a wonderful season. Blake has done well. Whitman always does well.
Yep.
We had 4 or 5 teams on the state stage this year.
Yeah.
And that tells you something about Montgomery County basketball. I'm sorry, I'm dominating. Chelsea, what questions do you have for Coach Harwood?
You've been coaching for a little bit now.
Yep.
Tell me, what is it about Magruder that kind of keeps you there, and why Magruder?
Well, after I left Paint Branch, I was the head coach at Seneca Valley for 4 years. And then Quince Orchard High School opened up my last year there, and they surplused me out of the building. And coaching, it's always been about connecting to your players. It's always been about that. And I coached my last year at Seneca and wasn't in the building, and it was just impossible.
Okay.
And for me, it was. And I demand so much out of my players. You have to have a relationship with them off the court. They have to know you care about them. And I went to Magruder, and I still wanted to be a college coach. That was my dream. But then by the time I got to Magruder, we had our 3rd child. Now I have 4. And thank God I'm a PE teacher, so I didn't have quite the paperwork. I got my camp going. And, I kind of chose life. College coaching is, as you know, is so demanding, and it's so hard on the family. And I was fortunate to coach at a good level, but I've been able to see my kids' games. I have 2 sons, 2 daughters, and I didn't miss many of them. So I was so happy I was able to stay at Magruder, and I make no bones about it. We've had a lot of really good players.
Yes.
So for a public school, you need to have talent, and I've been blessed there.
Well, and you get kids within the boundaries of your school, but Coach, if I know anything about you, you're humble. You got to have great coaching too, and you get the most out of these players, it seems.
Well, you got to give them some structure, give them some discipline, and and if they have to buy in, I think before they buy into my system or they buy into winning, they have to buy into me as a coach. I think the relationship between a player-coach it's always important. But before you have any kind of, I don't care what kind of coach you are or what kind of offense you run, what kind of defense you run, you have to be able to communicate with the players and get them to play hard for you and play for each other. And that's always a big challenge. But when it works, I tell you, it's a joy to coach.
When you've done it for so long, it can seem kind of tedious. It can seem like it's the same rotations over and over. What about this game keeps you passionate, and why do you remain excited?
It's a good question, because what keeps me going, and a lot of coaches won't talk about this, but winning is the fuel that gives me the energy. I'm all about relationships, being a positive role model. I didn't get into coaching to do that, but once I did coach, you realize you are making a difference. But I tell you, the competitive drive is what's always kept me excited about it. It's like, that wanting to win, and we just saw that with the New York Knicks, the drive and the unselfishness and playing as hard as you possibly can, and it's still a motivator. It's not the number one thing, but it gives me the energy to keep coming out and trying to compete.
You coached in the 80s. You coached in 2026. Can you highlight some major differences between players in the 80s? I mean, the three-point ball is, more present than it ever has been. I don't see a ton of big man basketball. I'd like to see a 6'7" guy get on the block and give me a drop step, but I don't see that much anymore.
No.
What are the big differences between now and 35, 40 years ago?
Well, the three-point line's changed, and I was kind of fortunate. My second year as a head coach at Seneca Valley is when the three-point line came in. So we've been a pretty big proponent of the three-point line early in my career. Now everybody does it, but nowadays, you don't have those big guys that, you look at Wemby in the tournament and Cat. They're playing 25 feet from the basket. It'd be nice if they had, one post move or something to get in there. But it's a different game. It's a different game because of the three-point line. It's opened it up. And nowadays, you almost have to be able to shoot. Used to, you could put 2 shooters on the court.
Right.
Now, if you don't have 4, you're probably not going to have a winning team unless you got some really good studs. So the three-point line has changed it. And I think, kids, since I don't quite think they're quite as mentally tough as they were back in my day because we kind of lived on the playground.
Right.
Kill or be killed, win or you step off the court. So I've always said back when I played, when the coach told me to get low, I got low.
Right.
Then in the 90s, after I was a young coach, then you tell them to get low, and you have to tell them why you get low. It's going to make you quicker. You're going to be able to rotate, help side. It's going to make you a better player. Okay, coach, that's good. About 2010, you got to tell them, I need you to get low. It's going to make you quicker, help side defense, and I believe in you.
Right.
I won't give up on you.
Right.
I love you. Can we have a hug?
Right.
It's like
different.
it's a little different. You already got to get that buy-in from the players, and they really need to know where. Back in my day, you never questioned the coach.
No, sir.
So it's a little different.
Coach, I'm going to mention a few things here. MCPS Coach of the Year 5 times. Washington Post Coach of the Year in 2001. You're in the DMV Basketball Hall of Fame. You got 500 plus wins. What are you most proud of? It might not be any of that. What are you most proud of? Your imprint on basketball in Montgomery County, in Maryland, and in high school basketball, period.
It's probably not one thing. One thing I'm really proud of is, I'm at the University of Maryland in a tournament and talking for 45 minutes to Jerome Williams. Jerome's played on my very first team at Magruder. I suspended him 3 times for Mickey Mouse reasons.
Right.
He didn't talk to me for about a year and a half. And when he went to George Junior College and grew 6 inches, and I reached out to him, and we've been friends for the last 30 years. And when being at one place for so long and having so many different players and the camp, there's always a connection there from the Jerome Williams who's in his 50s to the guys that are playing now, to the Isaiah Swans who are in their early 40s and Pele, to Nick Griffin and Garland Owens who are now
those names.
turning 30 years old, to Joe Hoogley, who coaches at PVI. He's 27, Benji Serpent is 50 years. We're all kind of connected, and I'm kind of proud of the Magruder name, and we've had so many great players, and a lot of them are still playing in rec leagues. They love playing with each other because our biggest thing is we move the ball and try to play unselfishly. And I'm proud that Lenny Myers, head coach right over there, one of my favorite players. Been a great coach at Kennedy. Justin Taylor's coach in Gaithersburg. Todd Dombrowski's coach in BCC. They're all PE teachers in Montgomery County. They were in my class, and they've worked, a lot of them have worked for my camp here and there, and just kind of makes me proud that, they're doing things the right way.
Koki has a lot of wonderful things to say about you as well.
Koki's doing pretty well in life, and when I see Koki, he's still telling me, Coach, I'm playing 3 days a week, because he knew I played for a while, and he's in great shape, and he's a big supporter of the program.
Your son, one of the sons that I've heard of, works with one of my friends. He's in the county.
Yeah.
Is he athletic director somewhere as well? What is he doing?
My son Tim's been the resource phys ed teacher at Newport Mill Middle School.
There you go.
And he's been my JV coach for 9 or 10 years. And I have a day and a half left of teaching.
Yes, sir.
I am retiring from teaching, not coaching, but my son, Coach Tim, he's going to be in the building at Magruder teaching health and PE. So I don't know if I'm going to coach 1 year, 2 years, but not much longer. It's going to be fun next year being a full-time coach.
Yes.
Not being on my feet all day. And so I'm looking forward to that. And it's a joy having, my son on the staff. It's been just a great thing to have. My older son is a real estate agent, but he's also a basketball official, came up through Board 12.
Board 12.
And now he's a college official. So it's, it's pretty cool. That's the good thing about staying here, too. Being a high school, if you're a college coach, you're moving around.
Yeah.
You're getting fired no matter if it's tough. It's tough. So being here my whole life, I'm just blessed. My 4 children are all married, living in the area. I got 10 grandkids, and the oldest is 6. So I'm never going to be bored. I got things to do. I look forward to having them at my camp. And, I guess looking back on, too, having my family involved in Magruder. My 4 children went to Magruder. My wife's a school nurse at Good Counsel, but she helps me run the camp every year. So I've really made family. I think my players have realized that it's not just me. Everybody says they have a family atmosphere. Well, we actually have a family running everything. Right. So that's pretty cool.
You said Board 12. If I mention the name Joe Marissy, what kind of memories does that bring back for you?
Well, Joe lives right across the street from me.
Oh, does he? I did not know that. I call him Brother Joe.
Joe was my real estate agent.
Right.
And I've known Joe was refereeing in the county back when I was playing.
Right.
So through my son and stuff. That's why my older son, he's not a teacher. He wants to make real money like Joe did, So he's a real estate agent and referee like Joe. Joe's a good man, and nothing but good things to say about Joe.
Well, Joe, I know Joe. He was my gym teacher at Blair back in the 80s.
Wow, yes.
That's how I know him. And, of course, now I know all the officials. And I can't remember who took over Board 12 now. Who's the gentleman?
Well, now it's Mike Jones.
Okay, all right.
He just took over this year.
Right.
Another Mike Jones.
Right. We had one here before. We got one here now.
Yeah.
He's at ODU, but we got the third here. Right.
It's a good basketball name.
Yes, it is. Coach, first I want to make sure that on behalf of everyone who's ever watched anything in Montgomery County, we want to thank you for the imprint you've had on basketball in Montgomery County. I would be remiss if I didn't say, in your time as a coach, how much has the women's and girls' game grown?
Oh, it's been really big. I mean, obviously, recently we got the Caitlin Clark bump up.
Right.
Just my girls' camp. In the old days, we used to have 3 or 4 weeks of camp. Then we went down a lot. Part of it was lacrosse and every other sport coming up. Now, the last 3-4 years, I got 120. We're sold out our girls' camp. I need to have 2 weeks next year. We got 120 girls signed up, and I think it's part of it because of the college game on TV now, and the WNBA has reached new heights. So, as you guys know, the DC area, it's the best area in the country for basketball.
The Mecca, fella.
You take the Maryland's won women's and men's. Catholic University's won D3. You've got the Catholic League. Good public school basketball in PG, in Montgomery, Fairfax County. You got great AAU programs from the Team Takeover, Team Durant, to all the women's AAU's teams. It's just from top to bottom. And the book I've been writing, I'll probably finish it next year, just my life stories. I always say one of the reasons I became a coach was because Lefty Drizel came in here when I was 10 years old.
Cole Fieldhouse.
Morgan Wooten started, we had Elgin Baylor and Dave Bing in the D.C. playgrounds, and John Thompson and George Leftwich, one of my role models, George. They had that great Carroll team and 59 wins in 1960, 59-60. And then Morgan, when they beat, Kareem's team in 65.
Yes, sir.
And then John Thompson came to Georgetown in the early 70s, made Georgetown not only a DC program, a national program. And I think Morgan and Lefty and John Thompson, those 3 in particular, as far as from the coaching standpoint, really brought up the game in our area. And it's made it, and that's why I think you have so many people that are into coaching, because whether it be a summer league game or a state championship game, it's pretty big around here.
I want to add a couple things to that. I wish we had the John Thompsons that would have Big Man University, because I'm a big post player fan. And number 2, I totally lost my thought. I think coaches like you are also responsible for. Years ago, Coach, PG County could whoop our tail. Yeah. Now it's no longer PG County whooping our tail.
Yeah.
Again, you have Blake well, first of all, last year we had like 5 or 6 teams in this summer league. Now we have 13 Montgomery County teams in this summer league. Win or lose, this is the kind of exposure you get that you can't get in. You remember the IBO summer leagues? I mean, Sherwood's playing Magruder every other week, right?
That's one of the main reasons we wanted to come here. Since we got a lot of returning players, I wanted to lose some games or have some close games to keep the kids humble, and I also wanted to play different teams.
Coach, your team's going to take the court any moment now. I can't tell you what an honor it is to have you on our podcast. I will tell you, last week, and I don't mind saying it, you came up to us, we were recording, I was starstruck. I'm like, I've never talked to Harwood before, and he's talking to me.
Yeah.
And I was jealous that my daughter got to meet you before I did.
Well, I tell you, I appreciate what you guys do more so than ever, because back in the day, Kurt, we lived with the Washington Post.
That's it.
We get together with a bunch of old guys from time to time. We had a little party a few years ago, and one of my buddies was pitcher in the newspaper from 1974 in December. And back in those days, we had 17 of us in a room that were their name was in that box score.
Right.
And everybody was in their 60s. And when you would wake up on a Saturday morning in the 70s, oh my God, Blair beat Springbrook. Oh, Brian Magan had 38. Oh my God. Right. Sherwood lost. Oh my God, who's this guy? Duck Davis from Rockville. They beat Eastern. Or if you had a good game, you'd look in the paper, and that's a big. Those box scores were big back in the day. And you had the Washington Star. And now with no newspapers, we need Mark Stearns and Capital Hoops. What you guys are doing with the podcast and air is great, because there is no more high school section for the Washington Post. So we need to get more publicity, and not so much, but just expose the game.
Right.
All the great players we have here, and it's great what you're doing.
Thank you. Well, names like Steve Francis, names like David Vanderpool and John Himes, and Dale Lambert, that Coach Blair, he's out in, is he Stone?
Thomas Stone.
Thomas Stone is where he is. I still keep up with him.
Good guy.
He was my counselor over at Blair.
Wow.
Right. So we know a lot of the same names. Like I said, you had to coach against John Himes. You had to coach against the McClintons. I mean, you did it all. Yeah. So we appreciate the imprint. Basketball's much more than the 84x50.
100%.
It really is. It's more than, you've been dad, counselor, coach, teacher, friend. You've been everything to a lot of young people. You bought a lot of meals at McDonald's and Chipotle and all that, taking kids home back in the day, I know.
Oh, yeah.
So we appreciate you. We thank you. I don't know that I've ever actually seen you coach, because I don't know if you know it, I coached girls basketball for 24 years.
Yeah, I know that.
High school and college level. So I'm always coaching when you're coaching. I learned from Dale Lindsay, or Bill Lindsay, excuse me, over at Blair back in the 80s. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Go Colonels, right? And I think we will see you guys in October, because I own a DJ service and we do your homecomings and proms. Okay. So we'll be over to that gym.
Awesome.
Are we going to get a new gym anytime soon? Here comes Chris Lund.
We're in line.
We've got Lund and Harwood in one. Oh, Lund, take a picture. We got to get this picture.
Who does he coach?
We've got the two most tenured coaches in the same space right now. There's Adam Crane. Coach Harwood, thank you so much. Good luck 26, 27. Good luck over the next day and a half.
Oh, thank you.
My wife has like 8 more years left. She teaches Jerome's son, I think. He's at WJ, right?
Correct.
My wife teaches health over at WJ.
Awesome.
This is the DMV Hoops Podcast. He is Coach Dan Harwood. Thanks, folks.
Thanks for tuning in to the DMV Hoops Podcast, your home for high school basketball coverage across the DMV. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, YouTube, Buzzsprout, and everywhere podcasts are heard. Follow us on Instagram and X at DMV Hoops Podcast. The DMV Hoops Podcast is hosted by Kurt Cross, featuring Chelsea Cross. Thanks for listening.